A je gati të bësh edhe ti ndryshimin tënd? Universiteti Vitrina.
Very good. Great. That's the point, because in the second part we deal with interpretation, which is the contrary to that. That is, if we say that translation and the transmission of meaning from the target language to the mother tongue, for example, or to your own language in a written form, interpretations is the, let's say, the transmission of information from the target into the mother language, into your own language, orally, okay? So that's the basic difference. So interpretation as translation consists of conveying meaning. Of course, you cannot, basically it is a process of communication, and being such, it means that it conveys a certain meaning from one language to another and so on. And it is a live transmission. That is, you do not have, if you are the interpreter, you do not have time to, let's say, access the resources or to have a look at the dictionary or vocabulary or whatever. So you have to transmit the meaning, the ideas of the foreigner or the speaker directly in a live transmission of information. Interpretation is being orally. What do you think? Where can interpretation best be used? For example, conferences.
Yes, conferences.
Business meetings, governmental meetings.
Of course, that has to do with speaking. They
Yes.
give conferences in front of others, so it has to translate immediately,
Yes, directly.
not to write and to have time.
Okay, so I guess we are clear now what is interpretation, so we'll pass on the modes of interpretation and types of interpretation, okay? So you said that translation is the process in which you translate a written form into another written form, right?
Yes.
Whereas interpretation is something else. Now we'll see some other differences, that is, some elements in which translation differs from interpretation. The first one is spoken versus written, as we said. That is, interpretation is a spoken version of, let's say, providing the information, the corresponding information into their own language, whereas the translation, it is done in a written form. The second difference is the time period or time length from the moment let's say, the foreign text is given. That is, interpretation occurs lively, directly, and as we said before, you do not have time to, let's say, access the, let's say, dictionary or make some research to find a certain meaning, because you may always find such situations. Whereas in translation process, you have time, plenty of time to analyze the text, to make your own research, to have access of different dictionaries or bases of literature in order to make the proper translation. The third is the level of accuracy. Now, as you may know, based on your personal experience, whether you might have or not worked as a translator or interpreter, which do you think do you think the level of accuracy is most necessary for the interpreter or translator?
Maybe translator.
Why do you think? So you think that the translator should have the greatest level of accuracy than the interpreter? Why?
Accuracy has to do with
Being accurate, saying the exact information, the exact translation, providing the exact idea given in the foreign language.
well, this is I think this is common in the two, even in translator, even in interpreter, because translator is less important, but the person that will read, for example,
Yes.
a novel or for example a paragraph, he has to create an idea, an own idea. So
Yes.
the translator should have translating in a good form,
Okay,
in a good way.
good. Let's suppose that we have a certain conference and we have the interpreter, okay? And the interpreter is not as qualified as it should be, so he finds difficulties in interpreting. And thus the level of accuracy here is to minor, right?
Yes.
So the transmission of the exact idea, exact information is not done properly. Whether the translator has enough time to make his or her own research and thus to provide the exact information. That is why we say that the level of accuracy must be greater, or it is, let's say, an ultimate necessity for the interpreter. Otherwise, the interpreter risks of providing false information, okay, or that is not the exact information in the foreign language. Okay, so interpretation requires excellent memory skills as well, because, for example, you have the speaker, the foreigner, and he provides some certain information, but you as an interpreter need to memorize or at least remember the main things the speaker says in order to give the information. Otherwise, you risk of missing, let's say, essential pieces of information in the conference, for example. Now, let's go to some other differences. Another difference in regards to direction and fluency. Now, the translator, the direction in which the translator translates, let's say, is one, that is, from a target language to the own language, okay, to the source language, very good. Whereas the interpretation can do both of this. That is, an interpreter may translate from the speaker to a listener, that is to the audience, but can at the same time, or might at the same time have the duty of translating the audience for the speaker, okay, who might be a foreigner. Thus, the direction is different in this case. As far as fluency regards, we should say that fluency, as in the case of accuracy, is one of the, let's say, essential or most important fundamentals for the interpreter. Why? Because let's suppose we have a conference again, and we have an interpreter who does always like the audience won't understand the essentials of the information. So the main intention or purpose of the conference might be left aside, okay?
Yes, because maybe the audience may think that the interpreter does not know how to, words, does not remember